promotion out there. And during that 14th month with that promotion, my income skyrocketed. And we had an organization, just really starting to roll and everything. And it was about that time my son Reed came to me and he said, Dad, I know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And a little bit about our oldest son Reed is he'd always been challenged in school. He's very, very, very smart, but he just decided he didn't like school. And so if you decide you don't like something, you're not going to do well at it. And he wasn't doing well at it, so Betsy and I were trying to encourage him. What is it that you want to do with your life, Reed? So he comes to me, Dad, I know what I want to do. I said, what is it? He says, I want to be a herpetologist. So what's that, Reed? And so well, it's a study of reptiles and amphibians, and I want to specialize in venomous snakes. I said, oh my God, just what you want your child to tell you, right? And I said, okay, well, where would you go to school for something like that? He said, well, the best graduate schools are out in Australia. And he loves Steve Irwin and all that. And so we looked up on the internet, $50,000 a year to go to school. Now that wasn't transportation to or from, room or board, or snake boots or sticks or whatever you need to keep the snakes from biting you, right? Anti-venom and all that kind of good stuff. So I can just remember the drop in his face, and he said, well, I guess we wouldn't be able to afford that. And I turned to him, I said, Reed, don't worry about whether we could afford it or not. Why don't you get with Mom? I'll block off my schedule. I know I'm busy building this business, but I'll block off my schedule. We'll fly to Australia. And he said, but Dad, I want to go on the on the summers. They go to the Amazon and they catch these really rare vipers. And I'd want to do that too. And those trips are about $20,000 a piece. I said, Reed, don't worry about it. And it was at that moment in time that it struck me that I wasn't telling my son someday this and someday that. Because of the opportunity of Ambit Energy, I was able to talk to him about it today life. It wasn't someday, we'll earn enough money, or maybe Reed, you could get in a work program, or we'll have to look into scholarships, we'll have to do this, we'll have to do that. Whatever it wasn't a consideration. It was the ability to deliver a today life. And so let's talk about it. Where you are financially, let's call that point A. And where you want to be is point B. And there's a vehicle that gets you from point A to point B. And for some of you, it's a W-2 job. Others get 1099s from various ventures you have going, or 1099 from Ambit Energy. You have a vehicle getting you from point A to point B. And the reason that you looked at Ambit Energy was because you wanted maybe just a little gas additive, maybe just wanted a little smoother path, but maybe you wanted a whole new car. Maybe you wanted a whole new vehicle to get you from point A to point B. And Ambit Energy became that for you. And what happened in that journey is that you had to decide. You could look at this vehicle we call Ambit Energy, and it could be a Lamborghini sitting right here. You go, well, that looks like a Lamborghini, but it's really I think it's a kit car. I'm not really sure, but I don't know those are the right tires for it. And so your mind starts to play these games with you as to why it won't work. Well, in order to get the vehicle from point A to point B, you've got to get in it. You've got to stick the car in the ignition. You've got to start it. You've got to put it into gear, and you've got to press the accelerator and move forward. And if you don't do those things, in other words, if you don't take action on the desire for that vehicle to get from point A to point B, it's never going to get you there. And as you leave ambition, you have to ask yourself, is this the vehicle that I want to get me from point A to point B? The speakers before me talk about paying a price. Let me tell you about paying a price. Betsy and I used to like to go out in the early days of Ambit, and still do like to go out to eat. We go to the restaurant, same Mexican place, or same this place or that place. And she knew what I wanted. And typically I'm doing three-way calls all the way to dinner. We get inside, and sometimes I'd be 20 minutes late, but she knew what to order me. Sometimes I'd get inside, another phone call, it's too loud in the restaurant, walk back out in the truck. And I'm telling you, 8 out of about 10 times, my dinner was coming home in a styrofoam container. And after the calls slowed down at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I'd be able to eat my dinner. I always say put God first, family second, and then move Ambit up on the list. You know, you've got to make the decision in your life as to what kind of price you're going to pay. But never sacrifice God, never sacrifice your family. You know, there's people that made serious sacrifices to come to ambition. You know, whether it was the airfare and the financial investment, whether it was your boss saying, well, if you go to that thing, I'm going to fire you, whatever it is, there was some risk taken for you to come to the National Convention of Ambient Energy. But you had a burning desire to get from point A to point B. You had a burning desire to do something special in your life. And the reason that you're here and the thousands that are not here for whatever reason is you're more interconnected to why you're doing the business. You see, Coach gave you a little brief insight as to the story of this prominent attorney I had in the North Texas region, and we were putting 200 people into an in-home. I mean, I've never seen anything before like it. I've never seen anything since it like it. So don't think you're going to get an in-home filled with 200 people. I mean, this was an extraordinary person with extraordinary influence. And we had in-homes that were springing off of those in-homes. In the summer of 08, we had more 100-degree days in Texas than we had ever had. And back then, there was no contracts. It was just X number of cents per kilowatt. And we went from approximately 10 cents, I don't remember the exact numbers, to about 17 cents. And TXU went from about 12 or 13 cents, because at that point, they were 20, 30% higher than we were, to 21 cents. Well, guess what? Can you imagine being a consultant, get into the business, tell your mom the rate's going to be 10 cents a kilowatt hour, she gets her first bill at 17 cents? Are you going to stay a consultant with Ambient Energy? They didn't. You know, when those bills went up and the phone started ringing off the hook and all those challenges occurred, had nothing to do with Ambient Energy. It was the price in the marketplace at the time. We lost a large, and I don't know exactly what it was, but I want to say 30% of our customer base instantly, probably 50% of my customer base. So you lose 50% of your customer base, your residual is going down in half. So at that moment in time, that individual decided, I'm not risking my reputation anymore. I'm not doing Ambient Energy anymore. And he proactively got on the phone and told everybody not only to quit Ambient Energy as a consultant, but to get all your customers off of Ambient Energy. Those poor people, for the most part, went off of Ambient, back on the TXU, and the next month they got a bill for 21 cents. Okay. Bad advice, but he was so angry. Yet he understood what was happening. Well, all the in-homes that sprung up off of his in-home stopped, and that entire organization, over 500 consultants, quit. You see, I could have quit at that moment in time, and I could have let the influence of this attorney who had 3 private jets in his law firm and practiced law all over the world, literally, the influence of this extremely wealthy, influential person to make the decision for me. But I was interconnected to my why, and the reason you're here is you're interconnected to your why. And no matter how hard it gets in Ambient Energy, if you'll always go back to your why, my why has always been my family. I wanted to do something special and extraordinary so that my kids could grow up living a today life, so that their kids could grow up living a today life. And so I wasn't going to let some attorney that I just met 2 or 3 months earlier get in the way of what it is I wanted to achieve for me and my family. So as I went out on the sunset tour, I said, what am I going to talk about? And I've always loved Star Wars. Love Star Wars. And I love Yoda's Star Wars. And Yoda's got all these special sayings, you know. And Yoda talks about, you know, this and that and everything. But he's got one saying, and that's do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try. Could y'all put that graphic up for me, please? Maybe they're having a little trouble with the graphic. So, where is it here? Yep. Okay. There's my buddy. If any of y'all came to the training center that I had for 3 or 4 years in Irving, you saw a little thing of Yoda. Remember, every day it's do or do not. There is no trouble. So I got these wristbands made up, these orange wristbands. On one side of the wristband, and we pass them out at the sunset to her, it says do or do not. And on the other side of it says there is no try. You see, let me explain to you about do or do not. That's a today life. Do or do not is a today life. You say, well, Brian, how in the heck if I do not ambit? In other words, if I decide not to do ambit, how is that a today life? Well, see, as long as you're in ambit, you're not, and it's not the right vehicle. I can promise you that every millionaire in America is not going to be created in ambit energy this year. There's a lot of great opportunities. I don't know if a better opportunity you can get in for $100 than ambit energy with the upside that we have, but the bottom line is do not's okay. It's a today life. Why? Because if you decide not to do ambit energy, for whatever the reason is, then it frees you up to go find that vehicle to get you from point A to point B. And of course, if you decide to do ambit, you're in the vehicle that should get you from point A to point B. But it's try is the someday life. How many people in here have had somebody say, well, I guess I'm going to get in, I'll try it? Okay, majority of hands go up. I wouldn't enroll somebody like that into the business. I'd have a conversation. There is no try. There's no try with Chris Atkinson. But Chris Atkinson had to make the decision as to whether he was going to do or do not. But if I got him to make a do or do not decision, what happened was that he had the opportunity at that moment in time to change his life. And good Lord Almighty, how it has, right? So, what is it that you're going to do or do not? You're either going to go do this business or you're not going to go do this business. That's the challenge that I'll leave you with as you leave ambition. Decide you're in or you're out. And don't leave ambition trying anything. Go and do it. Now, why go and do it? You've got a company that in its first year of revenue, 206, did about $1 million. And its third year of revenue did over $300 million, and third full year of revenue did over $300 million and became the youngest company ever, the number one company in America, privately held company in America on the Inc. 500. The Inc. 500 comes out every September. In September of 2010, based on the 2009 revenue, we were the company to hit the number one privately held company in America based on revenue. 4.5 years into the business, we went into Maryland. Okay, we went into Maryland 4.5 years into the business. At that moment in time, we were in 3 of the incumbents in New York. We were in Texas, electricity only. Gas is not deregulated here, for those of you that don't know that. And we were gas only in Illinois. And then we went into electricity in Baltimore. 4.5 years. And Chris and Jerry had to evaluate the opportunities available. And they made a do or do not decision. And they made a decision to go do. In other words, put us in as many markets as fast as they could. They garnered all the resources. They came up with the plan. John Burke kept up with IT. All the regulatory department was enhanced. All the people that did the rates, et cetera. The company made a major investment on the do decision. And that do decision has changed the lives of so many people in this room. And then the opportunity came to go international. And I said, what's the best market out there? I said, okay, the best market is Japan, because every consumer, with the exception of the island of Okinawa, is eligible for the service. Millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into the infrastructure, currency exchange, regulatory boards, and language barriers. All of that had to be overcome to make the investment to give us the opportunity. There was no try in Japan. There was a commitment of do. We've had a lot of major things happen in this company. I can remember when we went from 6 levels to 7 levels. I can remember free energy. I can remember the announcement that just erupted at Ambition. But I tell you, what's getting ready to happen to Ambit Energy is going to be the most positive, impactful thing that's ever happened to this company. See, faced with market change, Jerry and Chris had to make a decision. Do or do not. You know, all three of our sons are adopted. And I can't imagine the loving decision that those birth mothers made to place their children up for adoption. You know, when you have to give up your child to do what's right, that's got to be agonizing. And what I can tell you is that this company always has, and I believe always will, make the do decision, or they'll make a do not decision, and that'll give you and I the ability to live today live for the rest of our lives. God bless y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage, Daryl Starkweather.
It's a first. You think if they're in America, would have a little bit wider sky.
Got one more piece of business to take care of. We bring out Rope Fun. So you know about the power team. We've recognized everybody. I think it's time we find out who our top two are, right? All right. First, I do have to give a sincere thank you to our 25 power team members and what you've done to get your teams registered and here this week. You know, outstanding job. And all of you worked so hard to get your teams to this event. We all know how hard it is to convey the importance of this event and training to the new people. You do it every single year, and our biggest group of people every year are new people. So that's, you know, thank you for what you do there. Okay, let's find out who our top two are. So we've done the counting. Here we go. Our top two are Coach Alan Johnson. Coach trying to change colors on here. All right, we got a microphone. Congratulations. All right, who wants it first? Roberto, Denise. All right, boy, this is not much going like this. I want to say thank you to my wife for signing up to Ambit 3.5 years ago. January 2016, she signed up to Ambit. I didn't want to do this business. 9 months later, she brought me to Ambition. It was just her and I walking through the halls of Ambition 36 months ago. Today, we are winners of the EG Power Team. Amigos hispanos, sí se puede, todo se puede lograr. You're in section 119 tomorrow. We're going to have tickets. You're going to be in 106, known by the color of the towel that you have here. Your team will find out.
Fantastic.
Talk to us.
I don't know what he said at the very end, but I do want to say this. I am so proud of Team 212, and people ask me all the time, what does 212 mean? At 211 degrees, water boils. At 212 degrees, steam occurs, enough to move a locomotive. If you guys in this room are willing to do just a little bit more, you can move mountains yourself.
talk to you. Talk to you, Philippines.